Logging on, but at least this is on record that I said hi. I'm sure Pastor Adam will take care of you. And it was suggested to me that if there is a question that comes from our dear saints, that I will restate it out loud so that the Facebook crowd can follow along so they don't feel like they've missed something. So make sure your questions are good. No pressure. No pressure at all. And we do want to have a short prayer. We want to pray. We just want to pray and encourage those that are watching by Facebook Live that you feel like you're a part of what's going on. So let me just give a short prayer for us, okay? And for them as well. Father, we just thank you for this opportunity to be in Bible study tonight. And we just thank you that our church is open and we have an opportunity to share the Word of God here and on Facebook Live. And we pray for our friends, our church family members, and others that may be watching today that are interested in the church or interested in the gospel of Jesus Christ or just want to be encouraged by God's word. We just pray that it will be a blessing to them. We pray for each need that they may have. God, that you are the God that listens. You are the God that answers prayer. The Bible tells us that the eyes of the Lord are upon the righteous and his ears are attentive to their prayers. And we thank you that you are here and you're listening. So I pray for whatever needs they have, whatever requests they have, that they know that they have a God that hears and answers prayer. And we thank you for that in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Okay, so Mark chapter 10 and verse 46. And again, that's page 46 in your notes, or it should be. I don't think I played with them too much today to bounce anything around or to move it to another page. I just added on to it. So let me just read to it. Bartimaeus, everybody knows the story of blind Bartimaeus. I mean, I didn't even spend a whole lot of time in Sunday school when I was a kid, and even I'm familiar with the phrase or the title or the handle, blind Bartimaeus. I don't know if he were here today, that if that's how he'd like to be remembered, you know, like blind Bartimaeus or, you know, I don't know, short Brent or tall Joan. I'm being kind here, Joan. You know, whatever, fat Susie and skinny Mary. I don't know if you want to necessarily be known by your physical traits, right? So I don't know if you'd appreciate being called blind Bartimaeus all the time, especially by the fact that God healed him. But anyways, Bartimaeus, verse 46. Then they came to Jericho, and as Jesus and his disciples together with a large crowd were leaving the city, so they're on their way out. They've made their show. They've done whatever it is that they were going to do. They're leaving the city of Jericho. They're moving on. A blind man, Bartimaeus, that is son of Timaeus, right? Bar means son of. So anytime you see bar in front of a name, it means son of. And then the last part is who he's, you know, the child of. So Bartimaeus, that is son of Timaeus, was sitting by the roadside begging. When he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, obviously, right? He had to hear it. He began to shout, "Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me." And many rebuked him and told him to be quiet. But he shouted all the more, "Son of David, have mercy on me." Jesus stopped and said, "Call him." So they called to the blind man. It doesn't tell us who called, disciples or others. "Cheer up, on your feet. He's calling you." Throwing his cloak aside, he jumped to his feet and he came to Jesus. And here's the big question. This is the big question. What do you want me to do for you? So I want to put this on here. What do you want me to do for you? Wow, wouldn't you? I mean, you know, I think we've all seen the story, Disney story of Aladdin's lamp. You know, you rub the lamp, you get 3 wishes. So can you imagine? Jesus comes up to you and says this, "What do you want me to do for you?" Sky's the limit, right? I mean, I would, if I wasn't blind, I would want to say to him, "Well, let me think about this for a few minutes. You know, this is going to be significant. This is a big deal. I get one shot at this." So he says to him, "What do you want me to do for you?" And of course, Bartimaeus says this, "Rabbi, I want to see." "Go, said Jesus, your faith has healed you. And immediately he received his sight and he followed Jesus along the road. So on your notes on page 46, it tells us that he's arrived at Jericho and that he's exiting. Again, as I said just in the introduction a little bit, he's basically just moving from one town going to wherever it is that he was going in the next town. And I think there's a map here. I think I've got a map for you somewhere on here. I don't know if it's small enough, though, to pick some of this up. It's not actually. It doesn't necessarily pick that up on this map. But, he's moving his way along. And so there's nothing particularly cooking here for Jesus and his disciples. They're just walking out of the city, as you would expect, right? There's no transit. They're walking out of the city and they're going to the next place. Somewhere in the journey along the road, right? Because Jesus always comes with a lot of fanfare. There's the murmuring, there's the talking, there's enough noise going on that a blind man can hear that something special, something significant is going on, and he hears through the crowd or from the crowd that it's Jesus. Obviously, as we're reading this in Mark 10, at the end of Mark 10, obviously he knows something of Jesus, because when he is told that it's Jesus of Nazareth walking that way, coming by, he doesn't say something like this. Well, who's that? Who's that? I mean, he knows that, if this is Jesus of Nazareth, that he's a healer, that something good can happen here. So like his ears are very attentive. He's perked up. So as soon as he hears that, he begins to shout, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Now, to me, that's the point of contact and faith. To me, that's where it all happened. Jesus is going to come up to him and say, what does you want me to do for you? I mean, the whole reason why he is shouting, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me, is because he's already anticipating what he wants done. He wants to see. He knows that this may be his only shot, right? So he already knows that this is what he wants. He already knows this is what he's going to ask for. He's trying to get noticed because he's ready to ask Jesus to heal him. So to me, at least, that's the point of contact. Now, as in any crowd, there are always the helpful. And so in verse 48, while he's shouting, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me, in verse 48, what are the people telling him to do? Be quiet, yeah. I think in my notes I put it a little bit, I don't know if I put it more angry, but I think I put in our day and age, people told him to shut up. Bible cleans it up for us, right? So I thought about that, and here's what I want to say about that, is there are always going to be people that are going to tell you that what you're hoping for and what you're praying for, isn't going to happen. Shut up. We don't want to hear you. God doesn't want to hear you. You're not important enough. Whatever, I guess my point is simply this, that there are always going to be negative people around your faith, and you're going to have to watch out for that. Because if he had listened, what could have happened if he had listened to the people? He'd still be blind, right? If he had listened and, sorry, I didn't mean to cause a scene. I didn't mean to raise my voice. I'm sorry, I'm making you uncomfortable by raising my voice. So I'm just going to sit here with my cloak and I'm going to stay seated on the side of the road and put my hat out or my cup out, and people can throw in, some denaries once in a while, and I'll just be content being a beggar for the rest of my life, right? If he had listened, right? So I don't want to overstate it, but I do think that there is something to be received here. So I don't even know if I can do this scripturally, so let me mix it up scripturally. Don't throw your pearls to the swine. Even church people, if church people are negative and down on you and tell you that God isn't going to answer prayer and God isn't going to work in your life and God isn't going to do anything for you, then just protect yourself from negative people like that are faith killers. And hopefully you don't know anybody like that, but maybe you do. Or just maybe it's an unsafe person in your family that just likes to give you a hard time because you're a Christ follower. And so if you make a statement of faith or you make a statement of trust in God or you're believing God to do something and they're like, nah. So let me just share this with you. And don't worry, no names, because I can't remember the names right now. I could look it up, but I can't remember the names. But I remember I did a visit a number of years ago to a family that was coming to the church for a while. And it started off okay. But, I think I stayed too long. Another family member joined them. And I think the family member had been churched, but was not serving God at this time and seemed to have an axe to grind with God and church and people of faith and, just was negative. And about the last, 30 minutes of that visit were just horrible because he just railed against the things of God. And I noticed that, by the time he was done, even his parents were kind of, flailing a little bit. Very negative, right? You're going to have people tell you, sit down and shut up. You can't believe for this. You can't believe for that. God can't do this. God can't do that. So just sit down and shut up. So be careful, whether it's Christians that think that, your faith is too strong, you're believing too much, you've gone over the deep end, or if unsafe people who are just trying to hinder your faith and your walk with God. Be careful of that. Thank God Bartimaeus tells us, right, if there's something that you need from God and it matters to you, don't just roll over. So, when he heard that it was Jesus, son of Nazareth, verse 47, he began to shout, Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me. Many rebuked him and told him to be quiet. Many, like not one, many. It's uncomfortable, right? They're outside. I don't know what's so bad about this. But for some reason, like many just, maybe they just didn't feel like, he's had a full day. Jesus had a full day. Don't bother the teacher. I don't know. Like, what do you think's driving that? Why do you think they're telling him to be quiet? Like, what do you think's behind that?
Disrupting the teaching. I don't know. I have a patient right now on my floor. They'll holler so loud, it gives you a headache. Get to the program! It's just like, oh!
Right.
And we all go.
Right.
I know he can't help it, but it is so loud and annoying, and I could just imagine.
Okay.
It was very loud and annoying to
Right.
the crowd, even if it's outside.
Right.
Like,
Okay.
It's just,
He's so someone in the Bible study here is saying that, he's just being loud and annoying and people don't want to listen to him, right? Okay, that's fine. Anybody else got a thought? It could be nothing more than that, really.
maybe they don't believe.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure, right? Like
I was just going to say, it has something to do with their
faith, no faith, right? It could be some. It could be some that, again, like the disciples, they like don't bother the teacher. So some are saying here that maybe there's just a lack of faith in that group, that small group, that community, and they don't want to hear Bartimaeus talking and saying things.
Online here I have Phil saying, I'd rather believe for much and get half of it than believe for nothing and get all of it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good, Phil. That's good. Yeah. So, again, we don't know for sure, and I don't want to camp on that forever, but there's certainly some being negative. And if he had listened to the negativity, he'd still be blind. So he doesn't. So many rebuked him, told him to be quiet, but with this. So I don't know about this Bartimaeus guy, but he's no pushover. So twice they're telling him to be quiet. And after the second time of them telling him to be quiet, what is he? He's even more loud. Yeah, someone in the group is saying that he's even more loud. So, yeah, I mean, this guy is not going to be deterred. So Jesus finally stops because I'm sure he can hear him. So he says to those around him, call him over. And so, sure enough, he comes up, and then the big question, right? The big question I have on the board here is, what do you want me to do for you? I cannot imagine a better question coming from Jesus for somebody who is in need. Ed?
You notice a lot of times he says that to everyone, but he already knows, but it's like you've got to make that connection. He wants to hear from you.
Right.
Maybe that's the same way in our prayer life. He wants to hear from us.
Right. So someone in the group is saying that he knows what he wants to do. He knows what needs to be done, but he wants to hear it from us. He wants that connection. So I think that's important, right? Again, Jesus isn't like, duh. I mean, generally, if somebody is blind, you could figure that out. There's different, I mean, obviously not everybody who's blind has the same kind of blindness, but generally, if you're somewhat paying attention, you can figure that out. So it's not like Jesus is like, so what's wrong? What's up? Broken leg? Shoulder out of place? Yeah.
And Bartimaeus knew who he was talking to. He said, Jesus, son of David, not son of Joseph.
Yeah. Interesting about that, right? Yeah. So someone in the group is mentioning that he knew he was Jesus, son of David, not Jesus, son of Joseph, meaning that there's this connection to the kingship, right? To his lordship. There is a, yeah. And so like, he must have been paying attention to what's going on in and around him. He must have had ABC News or CBC News on or something. He knew something was going on. Like he seems to have some indication of Jesus. Maybe he was more versed in the Bible than you think, right? Maybe he made the connection to what we would call Old Testament scripture, because it's there. It's there. They knew, the rabbis, the teachers of the law, the religious people, and then even those that were paying attention to the teachings knew that the Messiah, we are told in the Old Testament, that the Messiah was going to do certain things. Just go to the book of Isaiah and other places where it tells us, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, he's anointed me, right? All of those kinds of things.
So he must have recognized that Jesus was not just a man of miracles, but that he was actually the Messiah.
Yeah.
Because to reflect it back to son of David, because the Old Testament teaches the Messiah comes from the line of David. So he connected the two.
Right.
So he must have had quite a bit of faith.
Mm-hmm. So for those of you on Facebook Live, the connection is being made here in the group that Bartimaeus must have known, enough about the Bible, enough about who Jesus was and the things that he was doing, that he wasn't just an ordinary man, that he was indeed, maybe the Son of God, because he could do all of these great things. So he says that, and Bartimaeus simply says to him, Rabbi, I want to see. I want to see.
Brent, my translation says I want to regain my sight.
Well, regain would mean that he had it and lost it.
Right.
Yeah. That would mean that he wasn't born blind.
Right.
Yeah. So he has suffered some kind of injury, maybe. Right. So in the group, it is saying that in other translations in the English, it says, I want to regain my sight, which indicates that maybe he had his sight and lost his sight. So that's an interesting view. He missed it. Needless to say, right? You never had it. It's one thing. If you had it and you've lost it, yeah. And again, who knows, right? He might have had an injury, or it could be just, back in those days, who knows, right? Some kind of infection, bad diet, who knows? There's all kinds of things that can affect. Look at us today. Half of us in the room wearing glasses, right? Some of that's, we're getting a little older. I'll be sensitive. We're getting a little older, but others, it might be something else. Hey, you've been wearing glasses since you were a kid. Yes?
Which maybe that's why he was so persistent.
Yeah. He missed it. Yeah. Yeah, he might have been persistent so much because he missed what he had. So, and then Jesus doesn't like spit in his eyes. He doesn't make mud. He doesn't, tell him to dunk himself in the Jordan 7 times. He just says, go, your faith has made you well. And so we would understand from that, bang, right? Immediately it says there, immediately he received a sight and he followed Jesus at least for a little bit outside of the city. Immediately, right? Immediately. Awesome. Immediately. So, again, the facts are interesting. Every time we study a Bible scripture, the facts are interesting. But, Mark is leaving these with us because he wants to build faith in your life for whatever the needs that you have, right? And we've talked about this before, that Mark has given us all kinds of illustrations and examples of Jesus' ability to heal, to raise from the dead, to cast out demons. And the whole idea for his readers is that you understand that Jesus can do it all. There's nothing too difficult for God. And we are told from a story when he goes to his hometown that was the only place he could do very little. And it says it was because of their lack of faith, right? So let's get this word on here. Now, not for one moment would I want you to think that I got this figured out, this whole faith thing. All of us, right? All of us have prayed. I'm going to use this expression because I don't know any other. All of us have prayed hard for things that haven't happened. True? Am I lying? All of us have prayed for things hard, define hard, and that hasn't happened. And probably, if I can continue to stretch this for you, probably all of us have wondered, why not? True? Because we've felt that we had faith, and we felt that we were persistent, and we felt the prayer was led of the Lord, and that we were praying for meaningful things and unselfish things and all of that. True? I think even on Facebook Live, true?
Many times.
Yeah. So I only say that to say this, I don't get it. I don't understand. I don't know. I maybe sometimes think, well, I'm the lead pastor here. I got it all figured out, right? My family, and health-wise, just talking health-wise, what my family's been through with my son, from the day he was born. And, all I can tell you is that we have prayed. We have always prayed. And we have prayed at times for things not to happen, and they happen. And we prayed for things not to happen, and they didn't happen. And we prayed for things to happen, and they did happen. Did I lose you? So here's the, this is going back a ways, and I don't like to go back in the archives too far. But so I'm a young minister in Sault Ste. Marie. Sault Ste. Marie's got had, because who knows these days. Sault Ste. Marie in those days had 2 hospitals, side by each. And one of them used to have paid parking, and one, if you were a minister, you could park for free. So we always liked when we went to the one hospital that had the free parking, because you didn't have to go through the hassle of because back in those days you had to find somebody and pay and all of that. It was always a hassle just getting in the hospital. So one of these days, I get a call to go to the hospital, the one where you have to pay. And I'm at the hospital that you have to pay, and of course, it's way at the back, and I'm walking in to see somebody. I don't even know who it is. Back in those days, I was less curious about who I was going to visit. I'll tell you how I got cured of that in a minute. I'll tell you how I got cured of that. See how I use the word cure in hospital in the, oh, that's good. This is good stuff. So I'm in to pray for this young woman who's got some sickness. I don't even remember what it was, right? Because it was 1,000 years ago. And so I'm kind of being dutiful. I'm being a good pastor. I'm going to the hospital to pray for somebody that I don't know, that has something that I don't know anything about. And I'm going to go do that, strike up a little conversation, because that's what we pastors do. We're always very friendly. And, and go home, go back to my office, right? So I do all of that. I want you to know that in that hospital room that day, all I can remember is this: it was pretty unspectacular. There were no angels singing, and there were no goosebumps. There were no hairs up on the back of my head that I thought something really good had happened. And so, I went in and I prayed and went back to the office. So that I guess it's the next day or a couple of days later. I don't remember the exact time frame. I remember getting a call from someone connected to that woman and say, "Thank you, Pastor, for coming in and praying for her. She's doing much better today and will probably be, released soon." And I want you to know that nobody was more surprised than me. Now, I'm not taking credit for that because God gets all the glory, but I just want you to know that I did not feel that faith was rising in the room. So if it wasn't my faith, maybe it was hers. I don't know, but I just remember later hearing that she was doing quite well, and I remember thinking to myself, because I'm carnal enough to think that, oh, I'm a little surprised by that, right? Then there have been other times where, like I use the phrase, I've prayed hard and thought I was believing hard and I thought I was exhibiting lots of faith, and it didn't happen. So I can't explain it to you folks. All I can tell you is what the Bible says. So this is very important for you. Now, Ed, you're going to remember to remind me to tell them why I'm more curious about visiting people, right? But let me do this. I haven't forgot that. Let me do this, because this is way more important. It doesn't matter what I say about stuff like this and that. Sometimes it seems to have happened to me, and sometimes it hasn't. What matters is what the scriptures say. It doesn't matter if I've got it all figured out or if you've got it all figured out. Folks, that really doesn't matter. Just act in obedience and walk in obedience and pray in obedience to the scriptures, and then let God be God and do what God's going to do. And if he answers the prayer, wonderful. And if he doesn't and he tells you to keep praying, then do that. And if he tells you to stop praying, then do that too. But you have to go by what the scriptures say. And Jesus says, we're going to follow this up, right? He says to the man, "Your faith has healed you." Now, he didn't mean by that, "Your faith has healed you," is that because, you believed in your own healing, kind of power of positive thinking, that you were healed. Obviously, as we go all the way back, he recognized that he was Jesus, son of David. He realized who he was. He realized that this guy can do something. And so there was belief in the ability of Jesus to do this. It wasn't his belief in his ability to receive it. Are you with me? Okay? Because I don't know. I don't know why it seems to happen sometimes and sometimes it doesn't. Joan?
Don't you think sometimes, though, we're praying for something and we want it answered in the way that we see that it should be answered, but God doesn't see it like that. We're in human nature, and sometimes we can't understand or know what the Spirit's doing. God has a different plan.
Okay, so what's being suggested here, the comment is that sometimes we're just praying for stuff the way we want it answered and the we want it done, and maybe God is doing something else. Maybe the Spirit of the Lord is up something else. And I don't have a problem with that. I think that's true sometimes. I don't think it's true all the time, but I think it's true sometimes. I mean, if you've got somebody who is sick, you want them. If you've got a loved one that's in a bad relationship, you want. You should be careful here, maybe. You want the relationship restored, right? Healthy. You want a healthy relationship, right? If someone's broke, you want God to give them a job. I mean, it's as I did to myself a Sunday ago, it's not rocket science, right? It's like, the guy was blind. He wants to Right. It's not like, hey, what do you want to do? Well, I'd really like a cruise on the Dead Sea. You know, that's what I'd really like, Jesus. I know I'm blind, but what I'd really like, no. You're blind. You're sick. You want to be. You're unemployed. You want to be retired. Oh, yeah. You're speaking my language, Gary. Sorry, Carmen. Yeah. Okay. So let me do the, I pretty much feel obligated because we have to, let's go to Hebrews 11. You know, let's do a little faith talk. Hebrews 11, for those of you on Facebook Live, Hebrews 11. It's already 7 o'clock. Time flies when you're having fun, eh? Now faith, Hebrews 11, verse 1. Now faith is being confident, being sure of what we hope for, and certain of what we do not see. Right? And then we go all the way down and it tells us, without faith it is impossible to please God, right? Verse 6. So faith is the substance of what we hope for and the evidence or the certainty of what we do not see. So faith is tangible, but you can't see it. And faith is praying in such a way that you're confident what you're praying for is going to happen, and a sense of certainty that it's going to happen, even though you can't see it, right? Even though you can't see it. So again, there's a lot in there, and the Bible study is not on Hebrews, it's on Mark, and I understand that. But I just felt like I've pondered on that verse a lot, and I've even dug into it in the Greek to see if there's any different words. And in the notes in my Bible, I've got some of the English translation of the Greek words there that are used to give it a little bit more fuller meaning. But all I can tell you is just, God honors faith. So do your best to pray in faith. God honors faith. This is going to come up some more in Mark 11. So we're gonna put it to rest here, but we're not going to put it to sleep. So Ed, what am I supposed to do now? So why am I more curious? This would be good for you, because you still got 35 years to go. Same hospital, same town. Pastor, will you go and visit so-and-so? So, sure. I didn't ask any questions, didn't ask any details. Sure, right? And I go in there, and I'm in there for about 3 or 4 minutes chatting with the person, just breaking the ice, right? Because I don't know him, and he doesn't know me. So I'm just breaking the ice. And the next thing you know, this is back in the good old days. This is certainly pre-COVID. Next thing you know, like a whole group of people come into the room. And it was a private room, or a semi-private room with just one person in it, because I remember the room was pretty big. And a whole bunch of people come in. And so like I'm talking to this guy, and I'm getting ready to pray for this guy, and I'm doing all of this. And it turns out that him and the whole family that just walked in are all Jehovah's Witnesses. That would have been a helpful piece of information going in. I still would have gone in, but it just would have been nice to know. So now when people say to me, hey, Pastor, will you go visit my friend or my loved one? I'm going to ask you questions, because it just makes the visit a little easier on me and a lot less awkward. Yeah, so like, I don't know, I'm 20.
I think the less you know, the better.
Oh, maybe, yeah. Yeah, I probably would have gone in fear and trepidation. So, yeah, I don't know, like this is 1986, let's say, so I'm 26. And so, I'm thinking, I'm here to pray, so I'm going to pray. So I did. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall after I left, just to hear what the buzz would have been after I was in there. But yeah, so I ask now. Yeah, I ask. You just never know. So I don't know if I prayed in faith. I don't remember what was wrong. He was obviously physically sick. He was in the hospital, but I don't remember the details.
Another story for you, pretty
Yeah. You forget about stuff like that, and then, something comes up. Go ahead.
I told you about the one where I went to give the lady her last rites,
Yes.
and her husband was out at the funeral home making arrangements. We prayed over her.
And she recovered.
She sat up in the bed, and she said she was hungry.
Yeah. Well, the good news just saved hubby $7,000 to $10,000 probably. At least postponed it, right? Yeah. Yeah, so the story is that someone here prayed for somebody that was supposed to be dead. Husband was doing the funeral arrangements, and the person was healed. Yeah. Well, that's a good news story. That's a good news story. So yeah, I just pray in faith. Do your best to pray in faith. Do your best. The best way to pray in faith is to pray the scriptures. Pray the word. Pray the word. It's hard to go wrong, right? Again, back in the good old days, the Pharisees would stand on the side of the road and would pray and say all kinds of things. And the Bible tells us that whether it's them or pagans, they're thinking that they're being heard because of their many words. Just, say enough and, maybe God will hear. Or maybe you'll say the right thing and God will hear, right? And that's not the point, right? Not so with us. So let's go to Mark 11. As they approached Jerusalem, this is the big bad city of Jerusalem, right? The disciples know something bad is eventually going to happen in Jerusalem. They approached Jerusalem and came to Bethpage and Bethany. So that's what's on your map there. That's why I put that on your map. Page 47, that's on your map. Bethpage is kind of the mystery location. Scholars aren't exactly sure where that is, but it's obviously in the Bethany area. So they came to Bethpage and Bethany at the Mount of Olives, and we all know what's eventually going to happen at the Mount of Olives, right? Jesus sent to his disciples and said to them, "Go to the village ahead of you, and just as you enter it, you will find a colt tied there, which no one has ever ridden. Untie it, or we might say steal it, and bring it here," right? I mean, it's just a colt. They're going to walk in, they're going to see a colt that nobody's ridden. And I don't know how you know that unless you know colts, unless there's a saddle on every colt. I don't know. I don't know nothing about colts. But anyways, then you're just supposed to take the colt out. But Jesus covers this. If anyone asks you, why are you doing this? Tell him the Lord needs it and we'll send it back here shortly. So, this is the scripture truth for today. When you're doing shopping and you don't want to pay for it, maybe not. Just say, just say, we need it. And we'll send the wrapping back later.
It's got mafia written all over. The boss needs
Yeah. It's going to make you an offer you can't refuse, right? So anyways, so they found the colt outside the street, tied at the doorway. And as they untied it, some people standing there asked, "What are you doing untying that colt?" Because again, in our language and in their language, you're stealing it. You can clean that up all you want. If the colt's not yours and you're untying it and walking it away, you're stealing it. This is why Jesus is intervening here. And they answered as Jesus had told them to, and the people let them go, right? Something supernatural is happening there. That normally wouldn't work, right? If you went into the bank and said to them, "I need $100,000, and they said, "Why?" And you said, "Well, because Pastor Brent needs it." And they, "Oh, okay, here." Something supernatural is not happening. That is not going to happen, right? So, verse 7, they brought the colt to Jesus and they threw their cloaks over it and they sat on it. And many people spread their cloaks on the road. And while others spread branches they had cut in the fields. And those who went ahead and those who followed shouted what? What did they say in verse 9 and 10? Right. And yeah, keep going.
This is the coming kingdom of David.
There's David again. Yeah, remember that song, Hosanna? Used to be one of my favorite songs. As a song leader, it was one of my favorite because it was easy to lead. Nothing tricky about it. Oh, for the good old days of easy songs to lead. Jesus entered Jerusalem. What was that?
I said, no kidding.
Yeah. Jesus entered Jerusalem and went to the temple, and he looked around at everything, but since it was already late, he went out to Bethany with the 12, right? So, verse 11 of chapter 11, he goes into Jerusalem, he goes into the temple area, he looks around, but it's already late. Shops closed up, sidewalks have been put away, and he waits. He leaves the city and he waits. So there's a recognition here. So I love this, and it's amazing how things can change so quickly, right? In Mark 11, it's Hosanna in the highest. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is, he, the son of David, right? Everybody's like, woo, this is good news. Here's Jesus. They're cutting down palm branches or whatever they're doing from the fields, and everything is really, really good, right? It's great. It looks like he's going to get a triumphant entry, and it's going to be absolutely marvelous, and everybody's going to fall in love with Jesus, and the disciples are going to be happy. It's going to be a happily ever after story, right? That's what we think. More to come. Verse 12. The next day, as they were leaving Bethany, Jesus was hungry, and seeing in the distance a fig tree in leaf, he went to find out if it had any fruit. When he reached it, he found nothing but leaves, because it was not the season for figs. I can absolutely guarantee you that Jesus knows when it's fig season. Okay? Now, he's hungry and he sees leaves on it, but Jesus knows when the figs are there and when they're not. So this is like not a surprise to him. I mean, I am certainly, no farmer or gardener. But even I know, like, when, fruit or vegetables are in season. I'm not looking for a watermelon in March. Even I'm not doing that, at least not in this part of the world, right? So he knows. Then he said, verse 14, may no one ever eat fruit from you again. And the disciples heard him say it. So, okay, they heard him say it. Now, this is obviously going to get picked up later, so hang in there. So let's change scenes now. Now he's back in Jerusalem. He enters the temple area. Now, the temple area is a big area. Now, I have for you a copied and paste article from a guy named Lean Rittmeyer that does a whole lot of detail here on the temple. So I'm not going to read that for you. That's for your benefit. That's just to fill you in on some more information about the temple. And I cite the guy and where it came from and all of that, so I don't get arrested and thrown in jail. But there's a pretty good description of the temple area. What you should know from the article is that, it is a significantly bigger area during these days, these times, Herod's temple that he built, than it was originally. It's a significantly bigger area. I guess you could say Herod's builders added some square footage onto it. So he's in this area where there are people buying and selling. Now, they're not buying and selling souvenirs. What are they buying and selling? What's being bought, what's being sold there? It's not little Jewish flags or things like that, right? Yes, it's stuff that's going to be used in the temple for temple worship. So if you read down a little bit on page 48, let me just read some of the article for you. During the high holidays, and the high holidays means like the really big ones, such as Passover and the Feast of Tabernacles, certain priests took advantage of their status by setting up stalls inside the court of the Gentiles, of course, right? What are they going to do? It would appear that on this occasion, the market had spilled over from the royal stoa into the holy area, where Jesus, in parallel passages of the three Gospels, declares, my house shall be called a house of prayer, but you are making it a den of robbers or a den of thieves. Go down to the last two lines of verse 40 on page 48. As for Jesus' accusation that the merchants had made it a den of robbers, there is an abundant confirmation in the historical sources of the extortionate, notice the word there, extortionate prices charged to those who bought sacrificial animals or who needed to change their money to pay the temple tribute. On one occasion, Rabbi, son of Gamaliel, caused a reduction of 99% in the price of a pair of doves, as recorded in a certain part of the Mishnah. So if you were going to pay your temple offering, your temple tribute, they wanted it in their money. So let's just use Canadian American dollars, right? Let's just deal with what we know. We know the Canadian dollar, price on the board at least is about 76 cents US. But when you go to the bank, what are you going to get? Yeah, you might get 72, 73. And if your dollar was worth more than the American, let's say it was worth $1.10 on the board, right, on the market boards, but you went to the bank and cashed it in, what are they going to give you? $1.05 maybe, right? They're going to take their share, right? Well, what's going on here is they're taking their share and then a lot more, right? So let's say I was bringing in some of my money and I'm just throwing these numbers around, they mean nothing. Let's say I was bringing in my money and it needed to be converted and I was supposed to get 10 shekels normally, maybe I get 5, right? They were just gouging the people on the temple tribute, exchanging money. Or if you were buying something like, Mary and Joseph on the time of her cleansing, presenting Jesus at the temple, they were so poor that it was 2 doves, right? That's what poor people gave. So let's say, 2 doves cost you, 10 shekels. Well, they would be charging 20 or 30 shekels, right? So they were absolutely gouging the people. And you have to remember, the people doing the gouging were the religious sect. So this is why Jesus comes in and says, it's supposed to be a house of prayer for all nations, but you have made it a den of robbers or a den of thieves. And what's going on here is that the religious people and those connected to them are making money hand over fist off the regular folk, many of whom, of course, are very poor. And like Jesus just won't have it. These people are lining their pockets at the place of worship, like the sacred ground. And so let's see this. On reaching Jerusalem, verse 15, Mark 11, Jesus entered the temple area and began driving out those who were buying and selling. Now think about this, right? Again, we read it so quick, we know the story, we sanitize it. Now, if we weren't on Facebook Live and if we weren't just in a building program and if I wasn't afraid that you'd beat me up, I could illustrate this by running over to your tables right now, trying to drive you out the door and kicking the tables over while I'm doing it. And you would go home and you would say, Pastor Brent's lost it.
If you want more views, you could do that.
Right? But that's what Jesus did. That's what he did, folks. Right? He, call it righteous indignation, he was mad. He was mad because at the most holy place, the rich and the famous were taking care of the poor. And he just wasn't going to have it. Never mind the fact that it was consuming square footage and that it was, becoming kind of the predominant exercise there. It was becoming the predominant exercise there rather than the worship of God and the prayer that was supposed to be. I've seen this in action. True story. I just always happen to be in the right place at the right time. So, how many of you remember that when you went to church on Sunday, that you couldn't buy or sell anything in the church? I see some, right? Oh, even you're, okay, and you're young. Yeah.
Traditional church back in the day.
Yeah, right? So, you couldn't buy or sell anything on a Sunday. So if the musician was there singing and wanted to sell some, I'm so old, tapes. I love it. I just said tapes. Wanted to buy and sell some tapes, you couldn't do it. So, true story. I won't give you the location because those on Facebook Live will be able to figure this out, those that know me. True story, there was a missionary that came to a certain town to present his stuff. and also brought along some things to support him, on the mission field. So he had some, traditional items from the country that he was in. And I don't know if he had a book or he had something else. And he put them out on a table. And one of the elders came up to him. Now, this is the big problem I had with this, and made a scene that was so awkward and just embarrassed the guy, and quoted this passage. This was the biblical oomph. Folks, this passage has nothing to do with what that man was doing. Like, if your church has a policy that you don't want to buy or sell on Sunday, that's fine. You want to ground it in Scripture, that's fine. You want to do it just because you feel like it, that's fine. As long as everybody knows the rules, right? That's fine. Do what you want. I'm not criticizing that. And then basically said that, that he was defending, Mark 11, because there's no buying or selling in the church. Scripture's got nothing to do with that. And the coup de grace on this, then the poor guy, 30 minutes later after the worship service, had to go up and speak. Can you imagine his frame of mind after you've just been chewed out and humiliated, basically in the foyer, in front of people, and then, and so-and-so's coming to speak to us now. Mm-hmm. This has got nothing to do with this. Again, you don't want to buy, you don't want to sell, that's fine. These religious guys and those connected to them that they gave authority to were ripping people off while they were going to worship. That's the beef here. They were gouging them and stealing from them and all of that. And the focus, it wasn't like, hey, isn't it great? It's Saturday. We're going to the temple. The Pharisees and those connected to them, isn't it great? We're going to make some more money today off people going to worship. That's why Jesus despises this so much. So he overturned the tables of the money changers and the benches of those selling doves, and would not allow anyone to carry merchandise through the temple courts. And then he taught them. Is it not written, my house will be called a house of prayer for all nations? But right, so that's Isaiah 56 and 7. But you have made it a den of robbers. That is Jeremiah 7 and 11. So he brings these two passages. It's in your notes. In Jeremiah 7 and 11, and he puts them together. He makes it sound like it's one verse. It's one passage, but it's two. He takes one from Isaiah, one from Jeremiah. And again, those guys are close in time together. Not identical, but they're close. And he puts it together, right? It's supposed to be a place of prayer, and you made it a den of thieves. So one's a positive, and the other, of course, is a negative. But he puts them together. He splices them together to get the impact. And look at the response, right? Because when you hit people in the pocketbook, this is the response. Verse 18, the chief priests, now look who it is. The chief priests and the teachers of the law heard this, and they began to look for a way to deter him. Oh, sorry. And they looked for a way to kill him. Right? Because he was hitting them in the pocketbook. They were getting wealthy off of this, probably very wealthy. And it embarrassed them because everybody knew who was running the game, right? Now, again, I don't have any bad habits. Okay, maybe chocolate and Coca-Cola. But other than that, honestly, I don't have any bad habits, except for lying. Okay, but other than that, I don't have any bad habits, okay? But if you're in the seedy part of town and you're looking for a poker game or you're looking for drugs or all of that, you know where to go, right? So you're looking for the poker game. Well, who's running the poker game? Well, Adam's running the poker game. You got to go to Adam's house. Okay, I know where that is. Like, who's running this? Like, who's selling the drugs or the alcohol? Well, that's over at Jones' house, so you got to go out to the county to get that. That's for John. I mean, if you're into that, you know where that stuff is, right? Like, you know what's going on. You know who's running the game. You know what's going on. You know who's making the money. Trust me, all of these people come in Jerusalem know what's going on. They know the chief priests and the teachers of the law are running the game here. They know that they're making money hand over fist off these people. They know what's going on, but they're powerless to do anything about it. You got to play the game. You want to go worship? You got to play the game. You got to pay up for it. That's just the way it is. And so they're embarrassed by that. They're embarrassed by having their authority challenged. They're, all of this going on. Let's be honest. If Jesus is turning over tables, and you guys won't let me, if Jesus is turning over tables and chasing people out, that's an awkward moment. Just like back in that place, in that town where one of the elders chewed that missionary out, like, trust me, even for the people standing around, that was an awkward moment. You're looking for a place to hide, right? Like, I think I need to go to the bathroom right now. Like, I need to find my seat in the sanctuary, right? You don't want anything to do with that, right? This is awkward for these guys. So they began looking for a way to kill him, for they feared him because of what? The whole crowd was amazed at his teaching. They were listening to him more than to them. And they saw their authority crumbling. And they saw that, the likelihood that their financial gains were dwindling. And they just weren't going to have it because the whole crowd was amazed at his teaching. Let's be honest, right? I'm trying to think of an Old Testament prophet that was known to be a little bit tough. Elijah would probably be the one. Who do they call Baldy? Is Baldy Elisha?
I was Elisha, yeah.
Yeah, Baldy.
With the bear.
Yeah. Don't. Right? Prophets could be known to have an edge every once in a while. It is not normal for you to go to the temple and see somebody running through the temple courts, knocking over tables and chasing people out. That generally doesn't happen on a Saturday in Jerusalem. Imagine if I did that on Sunday. Spirit of the Lord is upon me. So you know what we're going to do, folks? God told me Saturday night while I was praying that we should just run through the church and knock things over and yell at people. You'd be all like, right? I think as Ed said, pray for him. Retirement's coming. So this is highly unusual because Jesus is miffed. He is miffed at what's going on. There's two things going on here. There's the whole disrespect of God in this. It's supposed to be a house of prayer. You made it a den of thieves. The disrespect for God and the abuse of the people. Remember, the chief priests are supposed to be shepherds of the flock. Right? They're not supposed to be fleecing the flock. You've heard that before, right? There are lots of people out there today, shepherds that are fleecing the flock still. Still going on. Yeah. There's a lot of pastors, a lot of evangelists, I don't know if I should say this, very, very rich off of their flock. And I know they've got all kinds of, God's blessed me, don't criticize me, right? But they're making $5 million and you're making, on retirement, I don't know, let's say you're doing well in retirement, you're making $50,000. Big discrepancy. So I'm assuming at some point down the road, those people have to answer for that. I'm not saying they don't love Jesus, and I'm not saying they're not saved. But I just think that's hard to justify. That's what I think. 729? 729. Any final comments? Need to wrap it up? We're going to end on fleecing. That's a good note.
Aren't you gonna finish about the fig tree there?
Nope.
Nope.
Nope, that'll be next week. That'll just leave you hanging for next week. Actually, I'm not trying to build up the finish. It's just that you don't really know what's going on there until he finishes the story. So yeah, I'm not trying to build that up for more than it is, Gary. It's just that there's part 2 to it. Nothing else? Well, let's pray. Father, we just thank you for each one that was watching on Facebook Live. We just pray that it's an encouragement and challenge to them. We pray, God, for the saints in front of me, Lord, that, I don't know, just we'll pick stuff up here. Just faith, exercising our faith, exercising the word of God. Faith comes by hearing, and that by the word of the Lord, the book of Romans tells us. And we know that that's about salvation, but we also know it's about other things that relate to our lives. And Lord, just help us to honor you, Lord. Understand that our worship needs to be pure and unadulterated, and help us not to contaminate it ourselves or to let anybody else contaminate it for us. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. God bless you.